Welcome to this week's podcast. I'm Mary Abazia, and with me is Tom Spitali. And we just have such a fun topic. We've been realizing that a lot of times when we work with companies, they have so many opportunities, and they're kind of hidden in plain sight. And so, and as we started to think back on some of the examples, they're from a lot of different industries. So, Tom, why don't you go ahead and open this up a bit more and share one of your favorites first?
Well, yeah, when we realized that we wanted to talk about opportunities hidden in plain sight, we looked at a couple of different categories. And the first one that we came up with was one of the reasons companies miss very obvious opportunities is, well, we work with technical companies, accidental marketers. And technical companies get blinded by their own technical expertise all of the time. It's like one of my favorite examples of this is one that probably all our listeners have heard about, but it's worth mentioning again. The Volkswagen Phaeton was Volkswagen's entree into the luxury car business. They used the Volkswagen badge, on a luxury car and wondered why it didn't sell. And of course, it was because people that buy luxury cars buy them as status symbols, and Volkswagen translates as the people's car. So, people hear that story and they're like, how in the world did that happen? Volkswagen is a pretty successful company. There's a lot of smart people there. How did they miss that? I mean, this is the reverse of an opportunity in plain sight. This is a mistake that they should have been able to see. But when you peel it away, you see something that happens so often with technical companies. The CEO was a highly technical car enthusiast. He thought he knew how to build a luxury car. He was going to make this car with 10 different features that would set the standard in the luxury car business, all kinds of features about how the car operated in heat and how it got, kept the engine cool and all of these different things that they actually technically built in and engineered into this car. But they missed, because of all this technical thinking, they missed the idea that people want status in the car that they buy. They want the badge be something, the badge and the brand of the car to be something that they can show off to their friends. So that all seems obvious in hindsight, especially with, the way that Lexus and others have handled this issue. But that's an example of a company that just got totally blinded by their technical expertise. Mary, I know you have a few examples of this too.
I do. One of them that is just kind of funny is Segway. I mean, technically, it could do a lot of amazing things, but I'm not sure anyone sat down with a stakeholder map and said, okay, who really is going to benefit from this, and how does it fit into people's lives? It was like, now I think maybe the mall. If you go to a mall, the mall cops might have a Segway, or some countries they have Segway tours, but it's very limited relative to what technically could have been possible. But my other favorite is it was in the industry of fuel cells. So you have wind, you have solar. This is fuel cells, and it's very interesting technology. And there was a group working on it, and they were highly technical and brilliant people. And they were so smart, they were trying to figure out, they had spreadsheets. They paid this a lot of money to do a pricing model on spreadsheets. It was beyond complicated. And they just kept going. And they were like, we don't know why we're not getting sales. We just don't understand it. It's technically so much more superior. And then finally, so we started working with them. And the first thing that we do most of the time is a stakeholder map just to sort out chaos and start to see what's going on. And it was like, in their mind, to your point, Tom, it was like the technical buyer, the IT. And when you started to really look at who is making decisions, like at Whole Foods, would they want a fuel cell? Well, it wasn't the technical person, but it was the CEO that wanted to be able to kind of lean into being, green and being, more sustainable, and to show people that they are actually taking actions. And once they started to do that, and they realized that they could not have to do all those crazy spreadsheets, but rather the bigger picture of what it was with the senior leaders of some of these companies, all of a sudden it was like, oh, it started to move. And so I just it's amazing how simple sometimes things are, but yet how how hard it is to get there.
So,
So
and
those are my favorite two.
well, and it's not our purpose in this podcast ever to just, point out the things people are doing wrong, technical companies are doing wrong. I mean, it's always to kind of look at, you know, what are some of the manifestations of it, but then what do you do about it? How do you make sure that you don't get caught up in your own technical expertise as a company? And you've already mentioned it a couple of times, Mary. I think the first place that you go is to the influencer or the stakeholder map, because you and I have seen over and over and over again the same kind of mistakes in how companies build that map. Typically in a technical company, you ask them to think about everybody that influences the decision and has a hand in deciding what products and services to buy. And always in the middle of that map on the first iteration is the technical buyer with a big current level of power and the dotted circle that we put on our influence map that indicates that that technical buyer's influence is growing. Of course it is, right? That's what you think if you're a tech, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And, one of the things that we find out over and over again in our engagements is that in almost every industry, the technical buyer's power is shrinking. It's just a trend in the world. It used to be that whoever that technical buyer was considered the expert, even in healthcare decades ago, right? Whatever the doctor said, our parents believed, right? And that was because there was less information available to the rank and file people around that technical decision maker in a company. So they relied on the expert, but almost invariably today, that decision making power in a technical market is being diffused. It's that technical buyer's power is shrinking, not because there's anything wrong with them. It's just that companies are making more balanced decisions than ever before because the business buyer or the economic buyer, they have access to information. They don't feel like they've totally got to rely on this technical decision maker to tell them what to do. They want a hand in the process. And of course, Mary, they speak a different language, don't they, than the technical buyer does. And many technical companies don't want to face the fact that they're not as fluent in that language. You agree?
Yeah. Oh, I do. And I think one of the, to your point, the evolving or the some of the circles, if you will, on that stakeholder map that are getting bigger, of course, is procurement, or, in healthcare, it's the VAC committee. And we were working with a group recently, and I love it. I love when somebody like the light bulb goes on, they go, oh, we don't know how to prepare things for financial discussions. We're just a technical group. And so then they said, hmm. And he said, we could go talk to our finance people and have them help us with our presentations so that either if our salespeople have to go out and pitch to somebody that is talking about procurement, there's information in there, and or equip our technical friends with it. So, because the relationship is often very deep with the technical person, and they get stuck in their internal systems about not being able to talk to their finance. So I just love that they go, oh, we could use our finance people to help us create a more compelling and broader discussion, if you will, when the salespeople go in and talk. So that's some of the ways that you can address when you look at that stakeholder map and you go, oh, now what do we do? So
Yeah, it's the bridge that you've got to cross, is that you've got to try to get even your own sales force more comfortable approaching these buyers that they're not comfortable with. You've got to equip them with tools that will allow them to have a productive conversation, at least to elicit the buying criteria of the non-technical buyers. And it's just not a comfortable place for most technical sales forces, they're usually people that love the product, and they should. You should love your products. You should be excited about your products. You should be extremely versed in the technical aspects of your products. But you also, the company that wins is the one that is willing to do the uncomfortable thing, which is, hey, how do we translate this into a business case for the people that are responsible for the bottom line in the organization? It's interesting because so many new technical products, when they come out, they're actually more expensive than the existing solution. But the idea is that the technology helps save money somewhere in a process so that the total cost of ownership of that product is superior. But many technical companies are ill-equipped to have that conversation about total cost of ownership. They want to tell the technical buyer, hey, it's better, it costs more. But the technical buyer's got to take that to the business people and justify it. So you got to help them do
Yeah,
that.
and yeah, and Tom, it sounds like, I mean, there's different stages of, a company's development where this happens. We're kind of referencing more that, the technology's there and it's trying to find appropriate homes and grow. But we even see it further back where, there's some concepts that are, something amazing like, cushioning, and we can cushion anything. But when we show engineers, especially, how to look at a stakeholder map, and they go, oh, that's where the opportunities are. And they say, we can design anything. It's just if we understand what is going on in the market and who the decision makers are and what their needs are, we can design it. So it is very empowering for engineers or R&D when they also know further, earlier in that development process, that it's not just a technical person that's going to make the decision or use it. So
I
it's
think that's
great when they brought
ideal.
it.
Yeah, you're describing a true outside-in process where you understand the market first before you make anything. And that's great. I think the reality is most companies, though, make it. They think if they build it, they will come. If we build it, they will come. And so, many organizations are stuck with these technical products that aren't moving. They don't know why. And, the opportunity that is hidden in plain sight is to use the discipline of a stakeholder map to try to convince yourselves that, hey, maybe the technical buyer of this is not going to be able to carry the ball all by themselves. Let's look at the influencer map with some discipline and some non-bias, Let's if you build a map and that technical buyer is large and growing in influence, you probably are already wrong. The question really is, you know, if that technical buyer is shrinking in influence, and in most industries they are, doesn't mean they're not important. It doesn't mean that you can skip them. You can't. You have to call on them because the rest of their organization is going to be relying on them to kind of make a case if you can get the rest of the organization's interest. But the key question is where is that influence that is shrinking in the technical buyer? Where is it going? Are we, as an organization, comfortable with that stakeholder? Do we know what they want and need? Are we avoiding them because we're uncomfortable talking to them? What is our plan to approach them and get to know them better? Those are the questions that and ideas that start to get a technical company out of the trap of being blinded by their own expertise, just as it relates to the influencer map. We'll have more to say about
Yeah.
this topic in other areas too.
Yeah, I agree. And I like what you said about discipline. I think that using a discipline like that, especially in a technical company, allows the company to align. Because even if, you have one person that looks at that map and goes, oh, I see, we need to work on procurement more, as an example, unless the organization, the people within your company are also understanding the dynamics of the market, They have to be aligned. So it's a great alignment tool. There's huge discussions that happen whenever a technical company looks at it and goes, "Oh, yeah, all right, I see it." So it just, for many reasons, it takes very little time to really uncover opportunities that, are just, when companies do it, it's amazing. So
Yeah.
anyway, good luck.
Yeah, we look forward to continuing this podcast series on opportunities hidden in plain sight. Our goal is to explain A, why technical companies miss big opportunities, and B, what you can do about it. So stay tuned.
Yeah, thank you.